Hello ladies and gentlemen. This video is about communism and the different things that word can mean. In particular, I wish to focus on what a person might mean when they identify as a communist, and what a person might mean when they identify someone else as a communist. It's not escaped my notice that those on the right don't merely identify those on the left as being communists, but do so in an accusatory manner.
Communism is economic totalitarianism before all else.
The leaders of Russia tell us their only concern is the defense of their own nation. Is this so? Or are they ambitious for world conquest? Question. A question communism. Ever hear of Karl Marx?
The left, and I'm talking about the left, not traditional liberals, like Harry Truman or John F. Kennedy, has never loathed communism. And since the left dominates academia, almost no one teaches communism's evil history.
Student government rejects pro-capitalism club, says it's against humanity to allow it. Communism, on the other hand, that's done so much for humanity. I think it's only killed something like 90 million people.
Joseph Stalin emerged as undisputed leader. Here was a new face, but in the background was an old one, Karl Marx.
You sit there with this smug look on your face, and you think you've got this moral high ground that you have, when in reality you haven't, because you're into communism, you're into socialism, and like I've shown before, you've got Stalin, who killed between 20 to 25 million people.
You will not get freedom under communism, because there are no rights, there are only duties and entitlements that have been preordained for you by a group of people who are not accountable to you.
As we know, leftists lean towards socialism, big government programs, and equality of outcome, which is why they have sympathies towards communism. And Che Guevara and Fidel Castro didn't do nothing in their eyes.
And you seem to forget that the left has its fair share of dictators too, as well as, Fidel Castro, Lenin, Stalin, those types of people. Those people that killed millions of people through socialism, Andy.
So, opponents of communism don't speak highly of communism. No surprise there. But what's more concerning is that these people fail completely at understanding that the word communism has historically been used and continues to be used to describe a number of different political ideologies, and therefore it is irresponsible and inaccurate to lump them all together and talk about them as a monolith. To demonstrate these necessary distinctions, I'm going to use three significant historical figures to whom the label of communist has been applied. The first is Karl Marx, the second Peter Kropotkin, and the third Joseph Stalin. There are of course other people we could look at, but these three will suffice. Marx, Kropotkin and Stalin are all labelled as communists, both by others and by themselves. However, what are the significant differences between their beliefs? Marx believed that means of production should be controlled by the workers, not by private owners, and he believed that wealth should be redistributed evenly and fairly. However, unlike Kropotkin, Marx believed the proletariat should actually organise themselves as a ruling class. That is to say, he believed there should be a state. Marx also believed this state would simply wither away once it had served its purpose. Kropotkin also didn't like the idea of privately controlled means of production, or the uneven distribution of wealth. However, Kropotkin staunchly disagreed with Marx's belief that the proletariat should form themselves into a state, or that said state would simply wither away once it had become surplus to requirements. Kropotkin was an ardent proponent instead of a free federation of communes. It is this important distinction which makes Kropotkin an anarchist communist. So what about Stalin? He's perhaps one of the first names that springs to mind for the average person when they hear the word communist. He is also known, along with Hitler and Mussolini, as one of the most infamous dictators of the 20th century. It, of course, doesn't take a genius to figure out that this puts him at serious odds with Kropotkin's anarchist communism, which, as mentioned, not only advocates for no dictatorship, but no government at all. Indeed, under Stalin's regime, anyone openly advocating for anarchist communism was either imprisoned or sent into exile. Rudolf Rocker argued that Russia under the rule of Stalin would be better termed state capitalism than communism, further arguing In Russia, dictatorship proved victorious. hence there are no more Soviets there. All that is left of them is the name and a gruesome caricature of its original meaning. Needless to say, I agree with Rocker. Stalinism really shouldn't be called communism. However, unfortunately the name has stuck. Even in academia, the word is applied to Stalin as well as Mao and other rulers of countries where workers certainly did not control means of production, and wealth certainly was not distributed to each according to their needs. On the subject of Rocker, his theory of anarcho-syndicalism is a label I personally identify with much more than communism. This is because anarcho-syndicalism is a method designed to be applied in a capitalist society for bringing about an anarchist-communist society. And therefore, as long as we live in a capitalist society, this label is a lot more accurate. So with all that explained, I hope if you're someone who thinks things like this...
You have no moral high ground, Andy, at all. And you know what should happen to people like you? You should be made to live under a communist regime and experience it for yourself, how communism treats people, how they live their lives. I wish that there was a way to send you back in time to Soviet Russia in its early days, so you could live in a gulag camp and suffer from your ideology, because I can guarantee once you've lived under communism you wouldn't be supporting it anymore. And none of you people who say that communism is the greatest thing since sliced bread would want to live under its rule for any amount of time if you actually experienced it for yourself.
While I don't doubt the sincerity of your wish, you must understand that there would be no irony or poetic justice in me being thrown into a gulag, because anarcho-syndicalism is not a theory or practice that features gulags, or indeed any form of dictatorship. I should add, if you want to know what anarcho-syndicalism looks like, you needn't restrict yourself to political theory. On the contrary, I would encourage you to read up on the history of post-revolutionary Spain. Another thing I hope this video will have raised people's consciousness of is the use of phrases by the right, such as Nazis and communists, or fascists and communists. This is a transparent tactic to try and make people think of the two things as being closely related.
Authoritarian governments like the communists and Nazis.
Calling someone a communist is not the insult and the political smear that calling someone a fascist is. It should be.
So why doesn't communism have the same terrible reputation as Nazism?
Well, there is certainly some significant similarity between Stalin's regime and the fascist and Nazi regimes of Mussolini and Hitler. As I've made clear in this video, there is no such similarity to be found with Kropotkin's anarchist communism, or the Communist Party of Marx and Engels. If such people want to plead ignorance and say they didn't know that the word communism gets applied to quite a diverse range of political ideologies, well, you do now. And therefore there is no excuse for continuing to talk about these differing ideologies as though they are all one and the same. And if you do, we can put that down to deliberate dishonesty, not innocent ignorance. Thanks for watching.